If I told sellers their home was worth less than market value, charged 8% commissions, and purchased the property myself with the goal of making money off the vulnerable homeowners, the Commerce Department would take my license.
This is Las Vegas Real Estate Now with local real estate expert Harvey Blankfeld.
Sen, thanks for joining us today. I got a whole bunch of things I want to talk about, but first of all, I got to say that this past week I saw this article in Inman News. Inman News is a real estate centric news service that serves the real estate community. And in the newsletter this week was this article about Zillow. The title of this article was Zillow Hits Brakes on Buying New Homes for Remainder of 2021. And here's what the article says. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to sum the article up for you. I'll read some of it. This is by Lillian Dickerson. It's, again, Inman News. The real estate industry giant Zillow has put a pause on iBuying because the company can't seem to stay a pace of high demand, Bloomberg reported last Sunday night. The company acquired more than 3,800 homes during the second quarter following an expansion of Zillow Offers program in 2018, but today can't work quickly enough to satisfy an insatiable demand from consumers. The pause will last at least through the end of 2021 while Zillow works through its backlog of properties that have already contracts signed and required renovations. Prospective sellers who might have worked with Zillow Offers will instead be connected to a Zillow Premier partner. Yeah, so they're going to hand it back off to the agents who subscribe to Zillow, right. Which I used to do. I don't do it anymore because they're a competitor of mine now. Following the news, Zillow shares were down more than 6% in pre-market trading. On Monday, as of last Friday's close, stock had declined 31% year to date. That's an important fact. Yeah. Keep that in mind, guys, as we're going through this. What they are doing to housing is kind of what happened in the mid-2000s. I'm not saying that we're in for a crash. That's not what I'm saying. But they're turning housing into a commodity. That I don't like. I don't like seeing housing as a commodity. I mean, housing is far more important to the individual homeowners than that it should be subjected to corporate whims. So in order to support my thesis about Zillow, I decided to pull some data from our local market. I pulled tax records from all of the purchases and sales that Zillow did. Now, it was a little bit tricky because in 2021, they did have the name Zillow in their corporate name. It was easy to find them. But previous to that, they used a different name. Fortunately, I was able to find them because one of my colleagues knew the name that they were using before, so I was able to find them. So let me show you what I found. And what you're seeing here is the tax records from 2021. This is from 2018 through 2020. And there's 23 pages of documents here that it's significant. There's a lot of activity. I just want to kind of scroll through this so you see it. There's a tremendous amount of activity from 18 through 20, and this is when they were using a different corporate name. This is what happened in this past year. This is 2021, and I'm going to scroll through this for you too, so you see. And I just want to get down to the bottom of this thing, because here's where my summations come from, and here's where the data I used to develop and support my hypothesis. And so what you see here are three different sets of data. The first is 2021 Zillow. In 2021, they bought 380 homes. They sold 148. That means they currently still own 232. That means they still own 61% of the properties they purchased in 2021. Their total volume this year was a little over $202 million. The total gross profit was $3,800,000 and change. And the average profit per property, this is important, the average profit per property was around $26,000. Now, this is gross profit. This is like they bought it for this, they sold it for that, this is how much money was left over. This doesn't account for their costs or their additional income they got from service fees. Now, and back in 2018 through 2020, when they used that different name, they bought a total of 838 homes. They sold 807. Thank goodness they did. They still somehow have 31 left over from that. The transactional volume for that period of time was a little over $509 million. The total gross profit was $13 million. Their average per transaction then was $16,000. So look at this. Their average in 2021 went up 10 grand, almost 10 grand, not quite 10,000. 10,000 per property. That's profit that the sellers could have had themselves had they done the minimal amount of work that the Zillow people did. Now, going down to the bottom, total, this is adding all this data together. They bought 1,218 homes. They sold 955. They now own 263. So from day one, they still hold 22% of their inventory from day one back in 2018. Their average profit over that long period of time was a little over $18,000. And these numbers are pretty significant. They're big numbers. But I really wanted to point these things out to you to show you that, look, in 2021, right here, this is the big thing. They still own 61% of the properties they purchased in 2021. That's the key element to me, guys. listen, they're not stopping their purchasing because they're overwhelmed. They're stopping because they need to sell some product first. You've been listening to Las Vegas Real Estate Now. If you ever have a question about real estate or any of the other topics we cover, just call me off air or text me at 702-203-1165. You can also check us out on the web at lvrealestateradio.com or on our handle on social media at LV Real Estate Radio.